Okay, can y'all hear me? Can you hear me, Shannon? Can y'all hear me now? Hmm. Any better? Hello? Is that better? All right, Nisi, I sent you a new link if you want to come back on board. Or I will post it on here. Can y'all still hear me? I don't know what's going on with the sound. It is messed up. Can you hear me, Denise? Okay. As soon as she gets her end straightened out, we will get started. So, how has everybody been doing today? I hope y'all are having a good start to your week so far. Mine has been busy today. Here she comes. Let's see. How's that?
I can hear you now.
Yay!
I figured out what it was.
What
I
happened?
have I have these wireless earbuds,
Uh-huh.
and even though I had them in the case, they weren't they weren't securely connected inside the thing. And so my computer was still thinking that I weren't using my wireless buds when I wasn't.
So I was talking in a box.
It's crazy. You were talking to a box. Yes, that's exactly what you were
Oh,
doing.
that's hilarious. Well, we have Shannon in here, Evelyn, uh, Colleen. Welcome, everybody. Glad y'all are in. and
Have
hope
Halloween.
everybody is doing awesome and is not sick. I'm so sick of sickness at my house. It's not even funny. We're about
I'm
to get,
actually I don't know if you can hear it, but I'm coming down with something myself. My
yeah,
voice
I
is
can
all
tell
raspy,
you're a
y'all.
little hoarse.
Woke
We,
up like this morning. I was like, "What is going on?"
my whole house has had it except for my husband. He has escaped it so far.
Oh, let's hope he does.
Coughing, all the earaches, headaches. It's crazy. Anyway,
It's that time of year.
I am so excited to have you on my live.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
And
I was excited when I got the email. I was like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" Hi, Colleen.
yeah, and anyway, hello, Joy.
Hi, Joy.
And is everybody snowed in, or is it all melted off? I know.
It's we can get out right now. So, we did my husband had to spread some more sand last night though cuz the snow is turning to ice as it melts. It's like a vicious cycle. Um, but we've had a nice break from snow and I hope it stays that way. But there's other places in the United States that are getting slammed right now.
Oh, I know it. We got very little. Um, I think it was Sunday. No, Saturday night. Very little. Friday or Saturday night. See, it didn't even leave an impression on me. It was so little. But I actually think it was Saturday night, and by Sunday morning when I got up, it was gone. It didn't last no time, which I don't have a problem with that. That's perfectly fine with me. And I'm not a snow and ice person.
I'm not either. I am out of my element living up here.
Yes.
This year is a been well, hmm, the winter's been well that what the storm that we literally are still trying to get over was unusual for where we're at apparently is what I'm understanding from people. But so far as dealing with the temperatures, I'm getting used to it because the other day it actually got up to 40 and I walked outside in a t-shirt and I was like, "Man, it feels good out here right now." And my husband looked at me, he goes, "Dear, it's 40 degrees. You realize what you're saying?" I'm like, "No, it's not." And I went over to the thermostat and sure enough, it was 40 degrees. I'm like, "Oh, my blood must be thickening up."
Yeah.
40 degrees and I'm thinking it's nice spring weather out here.
Oh, I know. Hello, Danielle. How are you? I'm going to let you go ahead and jump into your story because I don't want you to feel rushed. So you take your
Okay.
time and it's yours.
Well, everybody calls me Nisi, and I am very late diagnosed autistic with severe ADHD. I grew up with really awesome parents and that didn't understand what was going on with me. Um, I had a, I had a, my childhood was strange in that I had rough parts of my childhood, but thankfully for me, because I had the parents that um, I had a safe place at home where my mind just did whatever it wanted. And I lived in a fantasy land most of the time when I was at home. Um, I got picked on a lot in school because I was different. I didn't understand why I was different, but I was different and I got picked on. I got bullied until sixth grade when I had had enough and I punched a girl in the nose. And people learned real quick not to pick on me anymore. So I, and I was very aggressive. I was aggressive. I was even aggressive as a child. I think I remember my mom telling me that um, there was one time when I actually got in trouble, and I think I got sent home for a couple of days because I bit another child, Um, so yeah, I was very aggressive and very messy child. Um, Completely disorganized. Couldn't remember to bring anything home. And my parents, they asked, back then in the early 80s, um, autism was around, ADHD was around, but it wasn't talked about. It wasn't shared amongst people. It's very hush hush, I guess you could say. Especially in military circles. I was a military kid, and we moved every 4 years. And my mom would talk to her family, and I think pretty much the consensus my parents kept getting was, "Oh, she's just a strong-willed child. You just need to give her more structure." Look, my parents did everything they could to give this child structure. Let me tell you, they were not the spoiling type of people. And I stayed in trouble my whole childhood. I was I was completely grounded, all the time in my room, which wasn't a punishment for me because I loved being in my room because I didn't have to deal with people. My poor parents, they went through a lot with me, but, they did what they could. I got through high school. Um, they did find out while I was in high school I had a learning disability. Reading comprehension was really hard, but that was pretty much it. Um, by the grace of God, and I literally say by the grace of God, I got through college with no help. Um, I got through college. I got my associate's degree in the classroom. I'm sorry, my dogs have decided they want attention. Hang on one second. Give me 1 second. I'm
You're
sorry.
fine. You're fine.
Okay, no, you're going to have to share me. Here, you come over here, and you come over here. These are my emotional support pets. So they're like on me 24/7.
Wow.
This one resembles my personality when I'm not on camera. Very needy and very demanding. Anyway, so I got through college, and I got my associate's degree in the classroom in accounting, which was very hard for me, very difficult. And I was also working full time, and I was raising um, my oldest child, and then in during that time I had my youngest child. All the while I'm not diagnosed yet, and I still know I'm different. I had a very dark lifestyle in my early 20s while going through college. I worked in nightclubs. Um, that's all I'm going to say about that. Y'all use your imagination. I drank a lot because I was self medicating. Drinking helped calm my butt down until a certain point. Then I got aggressive. If somebody, messed with me or said something wrong, my husband will tell you he remembers he met me during this time and he married me. Um, Sometime in college, my youngest daughter bit somebody, or not my youngest, my oldest daughter bit somebody, and then this one kid kept bullying her and kept putting um, his pencil on her face, and she grabbed the pencil and stabbed him with it. So I had to take her to get assessed. When I took her to get assessed, I had to fill out one of those parent questionnaire things as well. And from that, the doctor decided that he wanted to assess me for ADHD. And come to find out, I was ADHD. So I was actually diagnosed with ADHD at the age of, I think I was like maybe 26, 27.
Wow.
But the doctor never explained to me what ADHD was. He just threw pills at me. Okay. So I'm thinking I'm not ADHD. It's just because I drink too much, right? Because that's my logic. Anyway, so years go by and I'm struggling and I'm still in school, graduate with my associate's degree. And then Sean and I, many years after that, I started my bachelor's degree. And that's when and I got a normal person job and got the heck out of the clubs. And I got my first accounting job. And I noticed I was still different. Even when I was working in the nightclubs, I was different. And then when I got into the business world, I definitely knew I was different. It was obvious that I was different. um, but I mean, you don't think, nobody tells you that there's help for adults. Nobody tells you that. So you just deal with it, right? You find ways to cope. um, I got myself off the alcohol. I did notice, some improvements on that. And then hubby and I started dating. We had been best friends for a good 12, 13 years before we started dating. And then we decided we were going to get married. And then we had about a year, no, 2 years later, we had a miscarriage. And then the year after that, I got pregnant with little man and we had little man. When little man was born, I knew right away, right away, like when we took him home, I knew our son was different. Um, Anytime we had to go anywhere with him in the car, I had to put a blanket over his. Will you stop? I had to put a blanket over his car seat because he would scream like he was just being murdered. Um, it was never very loud around our house, except for when we used to live in front of what do you call it? A train.
Hmm.
And so that would be the only time it was loud because we lived on a country road. So it was never really, really loud around our house. But when we went into town, it was loud, and he would cry if there was a too loud of a noise, like a Harley driving by or a large garbage truck or something like that. And then when I went back to work after being home for 6 weeks, and I had to have him in the daycare, it killed me to leave him because when I would come back, every time I picked up my son, he was screaming and crying. And I'm like, what are y'all doing to my son? And so finally, I asked one of the ladies, I'm like, what is going on with my son? Every time I come here, he's in the swing and he's screaming and he's crying. She's like, we don't know. We can't figure it out. And I looked at the lights in the room and I'm like, are these fluorescent lights? She's like, yeah. I'm like, I just want to try something. Where's his blanket? So she got his blanket and I draped it over the swing and he shut right up. I told my husband, I said, there's something going on with their son. Well, this goes on and he's in preschool and we've got him in a daycare for preschool. And he was very aggressive, just like his mama, and he was late to walk. He thought he was talking, but it was jibber jabber. They couldn't understand him. And he would get frustrated and he would get overstimulated in the little classroom and he would have meltdowns and tear stuff up. And he was getting ready to get suspended from preschool. But we couldn't find anyone that would assess him because he was too young, even though there is plenty. You can Google this, y'all, I promise you. There is scientific fact that you can diagnose an infant from the day they're born that they're autistic. There are things you can do. And my son had all of the traits of diagnosing an infant because I researched it. Stop it. Um, so I had to wait until he was 4, and I worked for the school district, and I got a hold of Child Find. I said, look, he's only 4, but is there anything you guys can do to assess him? This is what's going on. Well, they did. They assessed him, but he didn't fit in the classic autism box. Therefore, the only the only thing they could do for him service wise was to go ahead and start speech therapy while he was in preschool because he was definitely delayed in speech. They're like, he's really like he should be saying clear words by now, at least this many. And I can't remember how much of vocabulary he was supposed to have, but he didn't have it. So he did get that service. And then I just didn't give up, you guys. And I finally found um, a autism specialist clinician. He's not a psychologist. He's just a clinician. He went through Florida State University called what is it called? F card. It's the autism department for Florida State University. And to be an autism specialist, you go through that program at Florida State University and you get your license. Um, so I found him through just going through Facebook and connecting with other parents who had autistic children in the Pensacola, Florida area. And what? And I found him. I don't know what their problem is. Hang on a second. I got to get them situated.
You're fine. Well, guys, Evelyn, I hope you feel better, and I am so glad that you don't have the stuff that seems to be going around because it's rough. And Joy says she prefers colder weather over humid, hot weather. I guess my favorite season would be spring type weather. I'm not a cold weather person, nor am I a hot weather person. Okay, here we go.
They're like children. You know that commercial where Stewart's going, Mom, 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 Mom. That's what they're like. Anyway, so his name was Frank Sanchez. So if anybody living in the Florida, Pensacola area, Frank Sanchez is awesome, just so you know. And he'll diagnose your child if they're 4. Anyway, so here's where my journey begins. It's right along right with my son. So we take him in to get assessed. And there's a questionnaire that I have to fill out. It was very long and daunting. And now my husband filled it out, got done. It was like 100 questions, you guys. I'm not kidding.
Wow.
And I'm ADHD. And I'm like, how am I going to answer all these freaking questions? And it's got the, the little bubbles and, a rate from 1 to 5 and all that nonsense. Anyway, so I was having a hard time answering this questionnaire, and we were already in there past 30 minutes because Nisi can't fill out this questionnaire. I'm an accountant. I can crunch numbers 4 years back, but I can't answer a questionnaire. So finally I got a scratch piece of paper from Mr. Sanchez, and I just took it question by question by question. I finally got these stupid questions answered, and I'm all stressed out, and he can tell. And he's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "No, you had me fill this stupid thing out. Do you realize you asked me 100 questions? I don't like questions." I'm like, what are these questions for anyway? And he's like, "It's going to help me assess your son." I'm like, "Okay, here you go." And he's like, he had some he did some play therapy with Zayden while I was filling out the questionnaire. He's like, "I'll be contacting you in 2 weeks." 2 weeks he calls up. He's like, "I need to see both of you with little man together." I'm like, "Okay, well, I'm gonna have to try and see if my husband I can get off work, no problem, but it's my husband that has the problem." So we end up actually going in 4 weeks later because it took that long to get my husband to be able to get time off, because that's what happened when you're a trucker. Sometimes you can't just take off when you feel like it, when you drive truck. That's not how it works. So we go in. I'll never forget it. He looks at us and he said, "Miss Patterson, your theory on your son being autistic is 100% correct. He is a level 2 and he is severely ADHD." And I said, "Okay." I said, "So what do we do about it?" He's like, "Well, I'm not done." he said, "I want to know if I can assess you and your husband for autism."
Oh, wow.
My husband immediately got pissed, and he's like, "You ain't assessing nothing." And my husband was not impressed. He was not happy that somebody asked to assess him. He took it rather personal. But me, I was like, "Really?" He's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Yeah, but I'm like 43. Like, you can't teach a dog new tricks." He's like, "It would really help me if you guys would cooperate and let me assess you so I can figure some things out," because he has some questions about our son still. that he thought would be linked to one of us. Well, my husband wasn't going to play. But I was like, well, I've struggled my whole life and I have this career and I'm still struggling. I'm 43 years old and I'm still struggling. I have a lot of questions. And he's like, okay. He's like, I'm going to set up an appointment for you. So 2 weeks later, I had an assessment process. Now, this process took about 3 months. Took about 3 months because I had to rule out some medical stuff first. So I had to do, blood tests and all that stuff. Make sure there was nothing wrong with my thyroid or anything female going on. Um, and then, and then I had to take what they call the adult ADOS test, which is the adult autism test. And it's a stupid questionnaire on paper with the little bubbles. So I had to fill that stupid thing out. And it was over, I think it was about 200 questions on
Let's
this.
pause just a sec. I want to say hello to Polly. Welcome. Thanks for subscribing. And Shannon is going to join us.
Hi.
Hey, Shannon.
How are y'all? How are y'all?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing good.
Can you still hear me?
Yes,
I can still hear you.
Okay, continue.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Go ahead. What did you say?
Let her continue. Let her continue her story.
Okay, your story.
So I get done with this questionnaire, okay, and I'm like, okay, good, the worst is over. Oh no, the worst is not over. The next appointment that I went, I thought I was going to get my results, right? No, he's like, okay, today I need to observe you. I'm like, what do you mean observe me? He's like, I need you just to relax and just do whatever you want in this office. And I'm going to sit over in this corner with my pad and pencil and I'm just going to observe you. For 30 minutes, this man observed me and I could feel his eyeballs the whole time. I was not relaxed and all I did was play.
I knew they would be staring at you.
Right? And I just played with my phone because I didn't know what else to do with myself. And I fidgeted really bad because, this person staring at me, now I'm overstimulated and I'm anxious. So I'm doing all kinds of crazy stems with my hair, my face, whole 9 yards. Anyway, and then he's like, okay, we're done with that. And then he gave me a book, a storybook with no words, everybody. It was just pictures. And I was supposed to make up a story page by page with this book. I didn't know what to do with that. So I literally just described what was on each page. That's all I did. And then he gave me a Ziploc bag full of like little toys and stuff inside the Ziploc bag. And he's like, okay, now I want you to make a story with the items in this Ziploc bag. And he poured them out on the table. Well, there was like a little toy table and there were some little figurines and little animals and stuff. I'm like, okay, the only story I could come up with that had a table in it was the scene from Alice in Wonderland at the tea party. And I just set up that scene and just told that story. So I'm like, I thought I was coming here to get results. He's like, nope, but I'll have results for you in 2 weeks. You're free to go. So I go back to work completely stressed out, having to finish off my work day. I'm like, man, if I could have a glass of wine right now, I would. I need a Prozac, just go back to work. And I'm having to deal with people at work, which was one of my challenges. So 2 weeks later goes by and I come back and I get my results. And he's like, Miss Patterson, you are high functioning autistic. No doubt. And you're definitely ADHD. And he's like, I want to offer you therapy. And I need to know, I mean, you're 43. I can't believe you got your BA without any help whatsoever. I'm like, well, I'm a survivor. I just did what I had to do. And so he asked me what my biggest issue was. And I said, my biggest issue is I'm 43 and I don't know who I am. All I know is that I crunch numbers every day and I'm a mom and I'm married to my husband. I said, but I can be around anyone and be like that person. I'm not my own person. I reflect whoever I'm around. I said, I don't know who I am. I said, and I've been different my whole life. And I have some unresolved issues from stuff that had happened to me due to choices I made and people that I trusted I shouldn't have trusted. Because That was one of the autism traits, is that you can be a very naive person and you trust too easily. And you don't always recognize when someone's taking advantage of you. And I had a lot of that in my life. So I went through about a year of intense therapy, to finally figure out who I was and to be okay with who I was. And during that therapy, I found out what I was doing was called masking. And a reason why a lot of females go undiagnosed is because we know how to blend in and mask and be like everybody else we're around for the moment so that we're not noticed. And also to keep from getting picked on and stuff like that. And that's what I was doing my whole life. That was my way to survive and to cope with this world that I didn't feel like I belonged in. It's like being, oh my gosh, the best way I can describe it, and I think I said it on one of my videos, is it was like looking in the window at the most fabulous put together people and being on the outside and wanting in and not knowing how to get in. Um, that's how I felt. I didn't feel like I fit in anywhere. And so anyone who would even show me the slightest bit of acceptance, I clung to that one person. I was also a one friend person at a time, and I still am to this day. I I have a hard time being around a group of people, um, or sharing my time with more than one person. So so if I have like a couple of really good friends, one friend will get like a lot of my attention for like several weeks in a row, and then all of a sudden I'll go MIA, and it's either because I'm not talking to any of them, or I've switched to this other person. Like, oh, I haven't spent enough time with this person, and then so I'm spending all my focus and attention on this other person. It's really difficult. Um, so yeah, 43. I'm 48 now. It's been 5 years, um, and I haven't found a therapist here, but the therapy I got there has done wonders. And I will tell you, there really isn't much resources for late diagnosed autistics. It's really not out there. I mean, I got lucky. I got very lucky and very blessed that I found somebody. Not so lucky here in the state of Montana, which I'm surprised because, like FSU, Montana State University is actually one of the top three autism research sites in America. Autistic children turn into autistic adults, and a lot of children go undiagnosed, especially females. Come on, people. Hello.
Right.
Um, so, yeah, yeah. I remember somebody telling my when my oldest daughter is definitely ADHD. I do believe she's autistic. She's having really hard time being an adult and making her life stable, which is a huge trait. Being able to keep a job is hard when you're on the spectrum, and she has a hard time keeping a job. And I've told her several times to get diagnosed because she's still young enough she can get some help, but she hasn't done it. But I can definitely see it in her. And one of the things that I noticed was that um, the when you're high functioning, it's almost like our autism is invisible. Even through our YouTube community here, so I've had several that are like, "Nisi, you're autistic?" I'm like, That's why my channel name says My Autistic Life on it." They're like, "No, you're not autistic. You don't look autistic." I'm like, "Well, what is?" Yo, by the way, nobody say that to anybody because it really gets to us. Just so y'all know, because what does an autistic look like? You know what I mean? It's very. Sometimes people say things without thinking, and yeah, it's a kind of a degrading thing to say to somebody that they don't look autistic, and it's degrading to the person who's very classic autistic, who needs a lot of physical support. Um, just throwing that out there. high functioning autistics, we have what they call invisible disabilities. We have difficulties with socialization. We have mental health issues. We do have physical ailments that you can't see. A lot of us that are high on the spectrum have gut issues. We have joint issues, things that you just don't regularly see. Um, and I definitely have all of that. Definitely have all of that, as you guys know, because I'm waiting to have surgery. And I do have gut issues. And and a lot of the reason why we do is because a lot of us have sensory issues. So, like, we have a hard time trying different foods. We may have a hard time eating certain foods. I can't stand the smell of peas, and I can't stand the way they feel in my mouth, and I can't eat peas. I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't force myself to do it. Um, and we have a tendency to eat the same food all the time. So, like every morning, without fail, I'll have a scrambled egg and an apple, and I'll eat that every day for like 3 months. And then I'm like, maybe I should eat something different. And then I might have a different type of egg. It might just be hard boiled or fried with a different fruit. And I'll eat that every morning for like another 3 months. Um, so our diet is very restricted and limited because that's the way our brains work. And so it's a true when you're living when we moved here, the idea of having a garden was like Gail. Y'all know Gail Southern Living's my sister-in-law.
Right.
She's the one that got me to garden last year. And when she said, you should really garden, you got that beautiful garden back there. You can restore it and garden. I'm like, you want me to go outside in the weather and do what? You want me to grow food? I can't grow food. I can barely eat food. She's like, no, grow food. Grow what you like. I'm like, well, I don't look, my boys don't eat vegetables. I have to like put it on their plate and basically force them to eat it and bribe them with ice cream. You want me to grow vegetables? An autistic household. We don't eat vegetables. Um, but I did. I grew tomatoes because I love tomatoes. My boys don't, but I do, and I ate every one of those tomatoes, y'all. They're gone. Um, and then we had blueberry trees already, and I was able to get some big fat blueberries off of there. But I will tell you, it was a challenge to be outdoors. It was a challenge because thankfully here it was a dry heat, so it wasn't as bad. But I can't handle extreme temperatures. So like in the winter, I hibernate in the cabin. In the summer, when it reaches in the 90s to triple digits, I hibernate in the cabin because I can't handle the extreme temperatures. There's a lot of sensory issues that we go through. And when you're late diagnosed, y'all, it's like you're trying to play catch up to learn why you've done all the weird things that you've been doing your whole life, and what's causing it. And, some healthy ways to deal with that so you don't, start chewing your nails off or chewing off your cuticles or pulling your hair out or, having meltdowns and hiding in your bedroom until you feel like you can face the world again. I mean, adults have meltdowns. They just look different. In a child, a meltdown may look like screaming and kicking and throwing themselves on the floor. A lot of adult meltdowns could look like it could be aggressive behavior. It could be yelling, definitely. But more times than not, it's them hiding in a room underneath blankets and not moving, and they can stay like that from morning into the next morning. Seriously, they can. So yeah, it's and then you got the socialization aspect. Uh, YouTube has done wonders for me because um, the one friend I made here has moved away to Kentucky, and I don't have another friend. I still have not made, it's been almost a year, and I have not made another friend yet. I mean, we go to church, but um, I have not made a friend. I do the smiling thing because, you need to smile, right? that something my parents taught me was to smile. So I smile. Um, but yeah, I'm not a social butterfly. Like there's a time in church where you get up and they're like, the pastor's like, well, say hi to somebody you don't know. First thing I think of is, I ain't getting out of this chair. I'm not moving from the chair. They come to me and say hi, I'll say hi and I'll be sweet, but I ain't getting out of this chair. I'm not doing it. And I don't. I don't. And I mean, it's, and it's not as easy. Well, just get up and go. It's not that easy. I have social anxiety. And it's like you sit there and you're just paralyzed and you think to yourself, please don't let anyone come over here. Please don't let anybody come over here. Please don't let anybody come over here. It's horrible. It is. It really is horrible. I can joke about it and I can laugh about it because it's how I cope. But this is what goes through my mind because I don't want someone to come up to me because I haven't had time to script. What if they ask me a question that I'm not expecting? You know what I mean? And so I've had to learn. That's part of masking, though. And so I've had to learn. Okay, you know what? It's okay. It's okay. You don't have to script. If somebody asks you how you're doing, be honest. If you feel like poo, I'm not feeling good today. I really am just not. I'm not doing well. And more times than not, that person who was expecting, I'm fine, how are you? Don't know what to do with that. And they'll turn around, they'll go away on their own. So I've learned being myself has its advantages sometimes. And then if I'm having a good day, then I'll let them know, man, I'm having a great day. And I tell them why I'm having a great day. And they're not expecting that either. Because, it's something you just say. You're not really expecting someone to tell you how your day is. I remember, and this is how Phyllis and I became friends. She came up to me, and I was feeling a little out of sorts that day, and she came up to me, and she was very sweet. We were we were at a crafting event, and I had a little man with me, and he was painting an apple birdhouse. And I was helping him paint it. And that's what we brought. And I went there because my husband said, please go somewhere and go get some kind of socialization, please. So I chose the church, right? So Phyllis comes up to me. She's like, and she's Southern, y'all. She's living back in Kentucky. I'm a little jealous because she's in that nice Southern heat. But she said hi to me, and I knew right. I'm like, oh, she's Southern. Thank you, Jesus, a Southern. You brought me another Southern sister. Thank you. I said, I'm new here and I'm not really doing the greatest, but I'm trying to adjust. And she's like, huh. I said, well, you asked me how I was doing, right? So you really wanted to know how I was doing, right? She's like, yes. I'm like, well, because sometimes people really don't want you to talk. They just want you to say that you're fine, and I'm not fine. And so she's like, well, how do you like it here? I said, I don't like it. It's cold and it's weird. And I can't get the same groceries that I got in Florida. And, or unless I drive an hour to the Walmart. And that's how we became friends. And she's like, she said, she didn't know I had a YouTube channel, but when she found out, she came to a couple of my lives. This is someone who has a unique perspective. You all see me here. You all don't get to see me in the physical realm, right? She did. And one day before she moved, she said, you are very interesting. She said, you are completely different when you're on YouTube than at church. You don't say hi to anybody and you sit there and I have to bring people to you. But on YouTube, you're a whole, I'm like, well, because I'm in my safe place. I'm in my home. It's just a screen. I'm talking to a screen, and I'm able. It's like I said, it's like Jesus before you go to heaven. Jesus is your bridge. My computer and the film thingy is my bridge. And she's like, that's very interesting. I said, it's an autistic mind. That's how we think. I said, YouTube gave me my voice that I don't know how to use in the physical realm, Phyllis, and that's what you're seeing. And yeah, so that's my story, you guys. It's complicated. Niecy's complicated, and I'm a little needy. I will admit I'm very needy. Because my poor husband, he's my only friend, so he has a tall order to fill. Bless his heart. But he knew me before he married me, and he married me twice. We had our come to Jesus wedding on the beach wearing mossy oak, and y'all, I have pictures on my YouTube of that.
Thanks
And
for
then
coming by, Evelyn.
we had our family wedding. A year later, we had our family wedding so that my whole family could be part of that special day. And my uncle Vincent had us renew our vows. So it was really cool that my uncle Vincent is the one that was marrying us for the second time. But yeah, and by the way, marriage on the autism spectrum, not for the weak of heart, y'all. Not for the weak of heart. It's interesting. Communication? Mm-mm. Communication is interesting in this house on both sides. So, do you guys have any questions for me at all?
I find your story is very interesting. I mean, myself, I'm of the opinion that you need to make a video telling your story because honestly, I'm probably going to say you are probably the first adult diagnosis of autism that I've ever heard of. You usually find it in children. And, maybe, there's more information that needs to be out there.
It is definitely difficult to get diagnosed as an adult. And I can't speak for the male side because I'm not a male, but I can tell you that a lot of females get misdiagnosed with chronic depression, or bipolar, or some other diagnosis, OCD. Um, I truly believe that my mother is on the spectrum. And she, just this year, when I went to visit them in September, she confided in me and said, that she thinks she might be. But her doctor diagnosed her as OCD already. And she's like, and I'm just so old. What's the point? I said, well, Mom, you don't need a diagnosis to know that you're autistic. I said, I got it from somewhere. It is genetic. It's been proven it's genetic. I said, there's other theories that we won't get into as to what causes it. I said, but learning what I've learned on my 5 years and watching you in a different lens now, I got it from you. And my story, actually, I have told my story. It is the second video that I've ever done on YouTube. And if you go to the autism education playlist and you sort it by oldest, you'll see little man's journey first, and then you'll see mine as a part 2. But I've been told by several people I should do an updated version because it has been 5 years and I've learned a lot more since that video. So I'll think about it. I might just do that.
I mean, like I said, I've never really heard of that.
It's rare. But thankfully, because we have the World Wide Web and we have more professional autistics in the medical field, more and more adults are getting the chance to get diagnosed. My youngest daughter is going through the process right now of being assessed as well. So, and like I said, it takes months. By the time from beginning to end, it was about 6 months worth of stuff I went through to get the final diagnosis. And I got a copy of all the paperwork because he knew that I was possibly going to be moving to Montana. And so I have all of that. Not that I do anything with it, but I do have it. I guess as an adult, the thing you need to ask, and I've actually had people reach out and say, well, is it worth getting assessed as an adult? And I said, well, it really depends on what your goal is. I needed the assessment. I needed answers because I was going through identity crisis and I couldn't understand why I couldn't figure out who I was. And I got tired of being all these different people. I needed answers.
I
You
shared the
know.
link to your story, and I mean, which will also be your channel too. If anyone
Oh,
wants to
thank
check
you.
it out.
Um,
David Gray says he was diagnosed with CPD, SD, and BPD, but always thought he might be autistic. But the docs don't want to hear about it.
nope, nope, that's right. You will run into that, and I guess for me, it was too important to give to. I was my son's only advocate, and and I think honestly, if I really look at it, the reason why I fought so hard for my son and wouldn't take no for an answer in assessing him at the age of 4, they wanted me to wait until he was 6 years old, y'all. 6.
Thanks for
I'm
coming
like,
in, Colleen.
hi, Colleen. Have a good night. And I think the reason why I fought as hard as I did was because I saw my childhood in my son, and I remembered what I went through all those years through school,
Right,
having a hard time making friends. And then when I made a friend, I had a hard time keeping that friend. And the reason why I have a hard time keeping friends is because, like I said earlier, I tend to go MIA, and you won't hear from me for a month, and then you're over there like, well, dang, did I piss her off? Did I upset her? Why am I not hearing from her? And she's not returning my phone call. She's not returning my text message. And it's not you. It's because Free Handling has decided she can't deal with human beings right now, and I've checked out. And so,
right,
and a neurotypical person don't understand that, and they're like, well, screw her. I don't need a friend like that. And I don't hear from them again. You know what I mean? It happens because I struggle. I struggle sometimes because, or I'll say something off the wall that might be offensive and I don't realize I've offended you.
right.
And then
If
I'm
anyone
like,
has a question for Nisi, would be a good time to ask it. We have a few minutes left. Uh,
I went to school. I went to high school with a girl, and her son was diagnosed with nonverbal autistic.
mhm,
But he is just the sweetest kid. He's awesome.
yeah. And I
right.
bet you he knows how to communicate in many different other ways.
He does. He does.
Yes.
I
Um,
taught in private school for several years, and we had a boy that always had problems, and it was such a hassle to get his parents to break down and finally have him tested.
mhm,
And he was autistic. And in math, we would try to teach him his math, and we even went as far as to buy different color pencils to do, like, column multiplication.
mhm.
And this column is this color, this column is this color, this column is this color, and he could do it once he was taught. But when he would come back the next day, it was like starting all over.
Yeah.
You
Yeah, that
know,
can happen.
and it was like
And
starting from scratch. But there's so many different levels of it,
Mhm.
and maybe that.
In America and the US, it's classified as 3 levels now. Asperger's is no longer a
That's
separate
what
diagnosis,
that's what he.
which, by the way, so y'all know, those who have autism hate that because Asperger's is a whole different. Yes, it's autism, but it's Asperger's is like genius level, like you're a genius, level type, high IQ type thing, and Asperger's is not the same thing as high functioning autism, y'all. Because I'm not a genius. I'm not.
That's
Um,
what he had. I'm pretty sure now that you said that name.
but there's 3 levels now. It's level 1, level 2, level 3. Level 1 is high functioning. Level 2 is moderate, which means you have significant delays in certain areas and you need some support, which is my son. Level 1 is you have some emotional and social development delays, possibly, but you need very, very little support. Let me repeat, little physical support. Okay, that's different. And then level 3 is what they call classic autism. This is where most of your nonverbal autism individuals are individuals that have that, they can't physically take care of themselves. And they need a lot of physical support. They may end up as an adult, end up going to a group home because they can't live by themselves. And, unfortunately, parents, we don't live forever, y'all. We pass away. And so that's level 3. And that's what the levels are here in the USA. Now, every country's different. I've had the privilege of starting to get to know some autistics over in the UK through a Facebook group that I belong to called Autistic Christians. And theirs is really similar to ours, but it's not as hard to get diagnosed as an adult over there. I don't understand what this country's problem is. If someone needs help and they need to be assessed, let them get assessed. If they have insurance, it shouldn't be a problem, right? Right? But it's a problem. So him saying that the doctors don't want to hear about it, that does not surprise me at all, David. Does not surprise me at all.
Well, I do appreciate you sharing your story.
Thank you for having me up. I really appreciate it. And I hope that my story kind of, I don't know, maybe open some eyes or validate some of y'all in here that think you might be on the spectrum. And if you have questions, just leave a comment on one of my videos. You can also get a hold of me through Instagram. I have to accept you through Instagram first, unfortunately. But once I accept you through Instagram, you can message me that way. Yeah, definitely reach out. Be glad to answer any questions anybody has.
Yeah, well, we appreciate you coming on. And Chatterbox Gals will be going live at noon Central Standard Time on Shannon.
Tomorrow. See you tomorrow.
Tell us about your guest.
Tomorrow.
Tell us who your guest is. Tell us who your guest
My
is.
guest is Marsha with Kansas Misfit, and she also has another channel, Oils and Wellness with Marsha.
Nice.
So, our guest.
So y'all can jump over and join us tomorrow. Thank everybody for coming in, and
It's good to see you, Nisi.
Yes, we've enjoyed.
Good to see you guys. Thanks for having me up.
And hanging out, and I hope everybody has a great night. And we will see you somewhere in the YouTube land.
Bye, everybody.
Good night, y'all.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.